part of my story is I had anorexia when I was sort of late teens. I moved through the simple notion of not eating. I was never the sporty one at school. I think, I'm not a big fan of labels, which is why I'm Chief Banana Officer, but I was never the sporty one. I was the academic one, and I didn't have a relationship with fitness. I could deceivingly eat and offset it. So the metrics on the screen at the gym are what I remember quite vividly in terms of, being able to really do that. And then, that takes on a different notion of controlling. And then from there, much, much later on, discovering the joy of movement over fitness was something. And then I think that's what I wanted to bring to the world, hence stripping computers off bikes, which is where power started. And then I realised that I'd done it for the bunch, the people that share the power space with me, but I'd not done it for myself. So then I stripped my wearable tech and I never looked back.
The world of exercise can seem really intimidating. Getting started with anything is hard, but constant references to numbers we're told we should be achieving can feel like extra pressure. Examples like the target of 10,000 steps a day, heart rates we need to get to, and even the minimum amount of exercise minutes we need to achieve per week to be healthy. These metrics can be seen as helpful markers, but for many they can actually turn into ways we pressurize ourselves, making us feel bad and often even putting us off trying. This is the last thing today's guests, Elaine and Becky, want their clients to feel. Their whole business, named Power, has been founded for deeply personal reasons about empowering people to throw out the metrics and be more in touch with how they feel, to enjoy themselves and to see movement positively in their lives. These two women are passionate about the benefits of movement, not just for the body, but also, more importantly, for mental health, connection to others, creativity, playfulness, and self-empowerment. I really hope you enjoy the conversation. In the intro, I talked about how much of the exercise world is measured, and whilst it's a positive target for some, these metrics can actually have the opposite effect. So Elaine, I was really intrigued when I found out that you decided to get rid of the computers on your static bikes in your classes. And from my own experience, I do remember, I haven't done a spin class for a long time, but I do remember always being a little bit over obsessed about the numbers that I was seeing in front of me. Sneaky peeking over to the person next to me as well, thinking, am I doing it the right way? And feeling a bit of a pressure when the person at the front was kind of saying, you need to be up at this rate, go, 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 whilst I was sort of struggling to actually breathe. So tell me, why did you make that choice?
Why did I make that choice? I wanted Power to be a brave, empowering space where people could connect, feel, share, shift in a way that they wanted to move. And it was really deeply rooted in my story as to how metrics had influenced my life. And I replaced the computers with bananas. That's what I did. But it was to give that opportunity for freedom of expression, creativity, vulnerability, and just the joy of movement over and above anything that's metrics driven, anything that's shoulds, anything that has rules around it. I was already starting with a tough gig because I was starting, as you described, that's what how everyone describes a spinning environment, and spinning is a great brand. That's where I started. But that wasn't what Power was all about. Power was about movement that really nourishes on a deeper level.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love all of that. Hence why you're here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, perfect.
So if I can ask about your story then, you referenced it there. What was it about metrics in your life that caused you issues?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of my story is I had anorexia when I was sort of late teens, and I mean, it's such a complex disease that really has, it could take up so much airtime. But I think for me, I sort of moved through. It was a practice, really. I moved through the simple notion of not eating, and then from that point, going into I was never the sporty one at school. I think I'm not a big fan of labels, which is why I'm Chief Banana Officer. But I was never the sporty one. I was the academic one, and so I didn't have a relationship with fitness, but what I, at that time, because it's such a deceitful disease, found was that, the fitness, I could deceivingly eat and offset it, so that, you know, the metrics on the screen at the gym are what I remember quite vividly in terms of, you know, being able to really do that. And then, you know, that takes on a different notion of controlling. So moving through it, I also found I was then going towards the strong, not skinny, simple idea. And then from there, much later on, discovering the joy of movement over fitness was something. And then I think that's what I wanted to bring to the world, hence stripping computers off bikes, which is where power started. And then I realized that I'd done it for the bunch, the people that share the power space with me, but I'd not done it for myself. So then I stripped my wearable tech, and I never looked back. Yeah, so it's been quite a process for me. I'm 42 now, so late teens till now. And I recovered really successfully from anorexia with all the tools that I have, which I now bring to power. But it's been 20 years later that I actually named it, and 20 odd years later that I've removed my wearable tech. And now I'm not metrics driven. It's intuitive.
You were already in that space though of not being driven by the metrics, but it was just the notifications, wasn't it? You know, it would tell you you're in a brilliant rest phase, and you'd be like, rest phase, I've been busy all day, or whatever it is. And it was like an additional voice in your head that was sort of unhelpful, because you weren't using it to drive what you were doing. You were still moving with joy and fun and playfulness, but then there's sort of like this unnecessary additional voice coming back to you.
So taking my power back, and having friends around who say, you know, this isn't marrying up with how you feel. You know, what's the, you know, what's coming into play there? And what's coming into play is the fact that, you know, I'd not done enough, or I'd done too much. You know, so it was constantly putting me back into a fear state. And then I wasn't fully expressing, you know, what I needed in that moment. You know, whether I needed to take a rest, or whether I needed to take a breath, or whether I needed to actually just get up out of my seat and, you know, from behind my laptop and move, you know. But none of that was intuitive. I was governed by a piece of technology that is fairly inaccurate.
Very inaccurate. These are telling you to ignore it all the time. Like, oh, honestly, we're exhausted today. Well, I don't know what it means that we need to like move more or something.
And I mean, the original place that I came from, it was the voice in my head. So when I was recovering from anorexia, and what is now the original banana chat, which is what comes through in power, is that whole idea of, you are not the voice in your head, you are the one that hears the voice. And I would need to starve the voice to feed myself. And as much as I was feeding the voice, I was starving myself. And that was the dance for me at that time. So it is that voice. And it became, as Beck said, it became another unhelpful voice. And I thought, I've crushed that bit of it. I mean, our anorexia, you know, if you know the illness, will never completely go. It's how you respond to it. It's whether you turn up the volume or turn down the volume, and how you interact with that aspect of your coping mechanisms in life. It's so ingrained. But for me, it wasn't helpful, so I got rid of it.
Wouldn't you agree, though, that it's probably unhelpful? The general narrative in society around exercise is pretty unhelpful in general for anyone to be able to move for the right reasons, because moving for the right reasons has to be from within yourself, what you want for yourself, but not just sort of those goals or those achievements or where you want to be, but much more about how you feel. And I do think that we have become slightly divorced. The way we feel as a result of moving has become quite divorced because of things like metrics and tech, where it's kind of, how many minutes did I achieve? What heart rate did I achieve? Is that good? Or is that not good? You know, I'm smaller, I'm younger, I'm older. What should that heart rate be? How many minutes did I achieve? Like I said before in the intro about the whole steps, you know, should I have done this many steps today? What's that going to be? Instead of finishing moving and thinking, oh, you know, I feel so good. For me, I've always moved probably half for physical ability and how it feels to live in my body, and half for my head, because I've always been lucky enough to be quite in tune with afterwards, or on a day where I move more, thinking, I feel so much better. I'm much more positive. I see my life in a far better way. Literally, the difference being, yes, sleep, nutrition, but all of that as well. But if I move less, I know that I feel rubbish. And then that, as you talk about, Elaine, that sort of that internal voice steps up a gear, and also it takes more control.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you've completely given your power away. Yeah, you've given your power away. You know, that's the thing. And I mean, for me, it went from a place of, you know, self-harm to self-care, and from punishment to nourishment. You know, that was the whole thing. And it was simply removing my watch. And, you know, for the couple of days afterwards, I'd feel the vibration in my wrist, because neurologically, and Bex can talk to you a little bit more about that, but, you know, there must have been something that, you know, my wrist was still, you know,
well, and you're
connected.
in that state of, you know, a notification or something that pings, it's built that way to draw your attention. So it puts you in that sort of fight or flight response, because it wants you to respond to it. So that's the whole purpose of it, is to put you in that fear state. So if you're in that state, and we know that from all kinds of trauma research and everything like that, if you're in that state, you don't just simply come down out of it. So, you know, if you've got that awareness of looking at your wrist, waiting for it to ping, that's going to last longer than just having the bit of plastic on your wrist. And that just shows you how deep-seated that response is actually in your nervous system, that actually when you remove the watch, you don't remove that state of, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Or, you know, whatever that is.
And in fact, it's you know, even aside from sort of the metrics of movement measured by a watch, there's research about even now technology, having a phone even in the room, even if it's face down, when you're trying to concentrate, and certainly particularly if you're trying to sort of go inward and, you know, meditate, move, as you say, more intuitively, really feeling into it, even having the phone in the room with no buzz, nothing at all, it's just knowing it's there, can create that state. So how you know, we're sort of getting further and further away from this sort of more natural state where we're actually being able to have that self-care. And sometimes self-care, people sort of see that as quite an indulgent thing, and yet it needs to be shifted to be, it's absolutely critical, a bit like the you know, the oxygen mask saying about put your oxygen mask on first to help others. If you are not looking after yourself, you can't care for others. Absolutely. So it's quite incredible how this sort of technological world of us is really hard work to counteract, and to know we need to.
Yeah, and sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, and that idea that switching off from it is somehow a self-care technique, where actually you almost want to think that state should be a normal state. You want to be going into the tech world if you choose to, as opposed to having to opt out of it for chunks of the day. And that's not to profess any kind of, you know, I'm in that world as well, as we all are, but it's kind of trying to bring yourself back to, like you say, stripping that guilt away from the idea of, oh, I'm going to look after myself for half an hour by turning my notifications off. Actually, if you can increase the proportion of that throughout your day, so that that's not the thing that's driving the idea of self-care, but that actually that becomes just a state for yourself where you're coming out of that sort of, like you say, technological awareness. Then,
and it was an interesting response when I actually stripped the computers off the bikes originally. So many people found it empowering. One person in the first environment, and it was really fascinating to watch, was really upset about it. So much so that they wanted advice on what they needed to bring to the session to continue to monitor what they were doing, especially because they were in a stage in their life where they were striving to achieve a particular goal for a particular event, but it was an aesthetic goal. And, you know, there was just so much that went into it. And I said, you know, we can absolutely support you to achieve any goal in this environment. We can support you to achieve any goal that you want to achieve, but that is not going to be through that computer.
Interesting, because then that really forces the person to look a bit inward, to question why they need that or not. It may be that they can't
that it's
do
not
that,
for them. Yeah.
that it's not for
me.
them.
Yeah, I would have been absolutely. I would have been. I would have. Yeah, at the time. So I think, you know, I am not above this. I am only here to guide an alternative option.
Yeah.
You know, an alternative. People will still bring, there's one person who still brings something where they can attach something to their bike, where they can monitor what's happening. But I will always do my best to, if I notice somebody checking their watch, and I'll say, the time is now. feel your heart rise and feel your heart fall. Feel. Don't be, you know, this is not, you know, and I'm very careful and I am sensitive because I have been there, and this will be quite a triggering conversation for some people, and that would have absolutely been me, and I'm hugely respectful of that. And it can be an accountability thing for some people. It can be an important health you know, thing for some people. If they're, you know, if they're recovering from something, they actually need to be just checking that. That's really important. You know, so I don't want to be so absolute with it and just say everyone should just strip off that tech. You know, that's not what power is about either. It's absolutely you do you. I just come from a place of, this is my experience, and actually how can I help support you get curious about something else that can actually really get you from that head to heart place, and actually just discover such a richer expression of gratitude for our bodies and our surroundings, because you're thinking, wow, I'm feeling the breeze, and wow, isn't the sunshine lovely on my skin? And I'm not, you know, constantly just in that frame of mind where I'm just, I all I can really focus on is numbers, because there's so much more.
So from numbers to bananas, of course. I mean,
it's music to my ears.
What else?
Why wouldn't you put a banana on your bike instead of a computer?
Why wouldn't you put a banana on your bike? I have to admit, when I first, well, first of all, I found out that you were chief banana officer, and I thought, okay, I'm not sure where this is coming from or going to, and I'm going to have to discover more. But it did take a little while for me to really understand what the significance of the banana was, and actually, it's totally wonderful. I mean, just the fact it's in the shape of a smile is lovely, but the fact, but we have to say that when you have a banana on a bike, there's also a pen, and I think that's kind of, it's not just a kind of please all eat bananas, they're good for you sort of thing. It's much, much deeper than that. So please explain the thought process behind the banana.
Yeah, so the banana, it plays many roles. I mean, it's right here. So the banana word for today is feel. So I was thinking about what we wanted to talk about today.
Give us
very much that.
Show us nicely.
There we go. And it has got the branded sticker on it. I'm all about that kind of memorable aspect of it as well. But no, I mean, for me, it's the perfect notepad. So, you know, you're not restricted to one word. It's an invitation to write a word about how you feel, a word that inspires you, your favorite word. And there you have on your handlebars or in your pocket if you're out for a run or a walk, or you're doing some Tai Chi with Bex, you know, wherever it is, in every power experience, there is a banana and a pen and a set of headphones. But the banana, it's then you're looking at it, or you're thinking of it, you're committing it to memory. There's something quite special about the fact. And also, if it doesn't fit on the banana, say it shorter. You know, that's the whole, you know, because we spend so long overthinking and underfeeling and justifying and explaining and you know, everything in life is around about saying something so much longer. And so actually it's just capturing something, and then for the whole time you're there, and then maybe afterwards you get off and you say, oh hi Wendy, you know, so it's an icebreaker. You're stood there, you've got your banana, you feel a little bit more comfortable about having a chat, you know, you can eat your banana, you can do whatever you want to do, and it just gives you that opportunity to connect. And then you start sharing stories, and then you start learning from somebody else, and you know, it's all those kind of things. And then also the idea for me, it was kind of a wonderful full circle from my anorexia really, was the fact that you stand there and you really enjoy it. And you know, if you've got something like love on your banana, you're then ingesting all of that as well, or you're really concentrating on that, you're feeling it, you're tasting it, you're connecting with all of your senses, you're smelling it, you're tasting it, you're seeing it, you're, you know, whatever, all those things that make you feel so grounded. And it's just a banana, you know. And it is, you know, but everybody says, what, like a banana, like a real banana, the one that I normally have in my fruit bowl at home. And actually, if you have it in your fruit bowl at home, you put it there, or maybe you give it to your child and they take it in their lunchbox at school. You know, and you've written a little message on there or something like that, you know, and you want to gift them that, you know, you don't eat banana, that's absolutely fine. We've got an FAQ. If you've got a banana allergy, not a problem. You know,
well, maybe a mild problem, but depends how severe the allergy is.
You know, it's a gift. and it becomes so precious, and it's just a banana.
It also, what Elaine hasn't mentioned, which is what, to be honest, is the most unique, inspiring part of what power is. So it's delivered via headphones, like Elaine mentioned, with some cracking tunes, a great playlist. But Elaine speaks positive affirmations and mental strength over the top of this playlist to encourage you, coach you, guide you on whatever movement journey you're on, whether that's running or on a bike. This is for high energy power. But the words that people write on their bananas, you will also call out in a ride, like she said, Wendy, what have you got on your banana? And then that sort of themes or drives the chat, the banana chat that Elaine speaks over that playlist. So actually, for you, it's content, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, it rides with all because there's no script to power. So people say to me, when they come and experience power in where I sit with the high energy space, and we'll come to Bex with her sort of more calm and peaceful space of power. But for me, they'll say, so did you learn that script the night before? And I said, there is no script. I will come with my one word. So this would inspire something around, are you more concerned with how your life looks or how your life feels? What you focus on is how you feel is how you live. There's all sorts of feel chat. Yeah. And so it's so spontaneous, it's so interactive, and quite often people go, oh, because they just think, well, how, because, there's lots, and all of this is just a toolkit that I've acquired over the years that I practice for my own mental health, and I just share that in a space, and it's just inspired by those words. So yeah. And I mean, it's just, there's so many possibilities with a banana. And it's playful. We don't play enough as adults. I mean,
no. It's certainly playful if you throw her a random banana word. And you look at her and you think, oh, what are you going to come up with?
I think listeners would be dying to ask at this point, as I would be if I was listening. Please tell us some of the more unusual words or the things that you don't expect.
The unusual words.
Can you remember any?
We've got a lovely rider, Ali. She always throws in a random
bonkers
word. Yeah,
bonkers
words.
And it blows my mind if somebody sort of writes on the sticker.
Or around the banana. No, actually,
there's various things. I mean, that's quite straightforward. But there are other down the spine of the bananas. Another way. There's just people can get quite creative with some kids. And I mean, there's some. When we're sort of talking about it is playful and it is fun, and that's the other brilliant thing, that a word means something to somebody that means something to somebody else, and it is their focus, and it can be really deep as well. So I've had examples of F cancer, that type of thing on a banana, and then somebody's able to talk about their story of why that's so important to them. I've had when I'm riding with kids at risk of exclusion, for example, they have the banana and they black it out.
Wow.
And I'm that's so there's, or they might write something that's absolutely on the surface stressed.
Yeah.
So it can be so fun, and it can be wildly playful and joyful, and and then the next minute it's kind of so it's really, and it gives that example of the cancer banana. Somebody put check their boobs on theirs, and they'd had a cancer scare and they'd been for mammogram, and all this kind of so there's an opportunity just get your message across.
Yeah, it's a voice. It's an extra voice, but it's not coming out. So it's another way of being able to speak.
You might write on your banana and have in your mind what that means to you, and then Elaine might come back at you with some totally different banana chat. And sometimes I think, no, you've not got the point. Like, that's not what I meant. But actually, it gives you another perspective on that word and that thought. And so that's the beautiful thing. It's like this interplay that you're not necessarily openly sat around discussing what this means to you, but it's just an opportunity to think, to connect, to feel.
Or even something simple, like if you put grateful on your banana and I'd ask, what are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for? That would be individual to everybody else, but it gives everybody the opportunity to think about their own gratitude.
And it sounds like people respond really well to it. And it's obviously, it just breaks down so many barriers. There's so many sort of, particularly for a spin class, I have to say, it is potentially an intimidating environment because you're sort of coming into this fixed space. And from my old gym days, am I sitting on someone's bike that's their bike, even though it's not their bike, but they've sort of
we won't have that power. We always say, go where you like. No one's got to, there's no bikes. It's just come be part of it. And we have I think that's the thing that we're most proud of, is we have such a wonderfully inclusive, diverse group of people who do high energy power and power yin. That is really special. You know, we have people who've never got on a bike. We have people who are training for Ironmen next to people with disability, and we have some guys who ride with us that have Down syndrome. We have this inclusive space that is not just about accessibility, physical accessibility, financial accessibility, which is also really important to us, but it's about inclusivity. So the fact that you come as you are and you all ride together, and that benefits everyone. You know, like one of our most inspiring riders, Izzy, she scribbles all over her bananas, and some of the profound things she writes on there, you know, it surprises people, and they look around and they think, actually, wow, like that has enriched my day and
it
my
shifts
life.
Perspective as well.
And that's, I think that's the problem with life, where we try and segregate people and you know, offer offerings that people maybe need that is adapted for them. But if we separate all those things and say, okay, well, this is adapted for you and you go and do that class, and this is adapted for you and you go and do this, it doesn't benefit everyone in society. Actually, we benefit from all coming together and doing something together, if that's possible. It's not always possible, you know. That's not to say that people don't have different needs that need to be you know, accounted for and supported with, but as much as we can, if we can come together to be inclusive, then that, you know, that benefits all of us.
And like the work in schools I mentioned, that is definitely a thing. But outside of that, people say, do you do a special class where I can bring my children? I say, no, just bring them. Just bring them. Can I bring my dog? Well, I mean, you know, if there's an example where we're doing walks and runs, absolutely bring your dog, you know. And I'll talk about connection through the lead, and you know, it's wild. I mean, there are examples of power where you've got all ages, people with walking aids, this type of thing, you know, kids, parents, and actually when you see the interaction with the parent and the child as well, it's so brilliant.
And that's what's missing a lot in particularly our Western world. I think we are so segregated a lot of the time. We don't have the level of community that lots of other places still around the world do. And, you know, I talk about multi-generational movement as well, because we do learn so much, and it's so good for our kids to see us moving, but also to sort of show that to our seniors as well. It's really important because, you know, as we all know, the sort of the old, I don't know how you'd say it, but the feeling that there has been that, you know, you retire and you slow down. We know that that's a really bad thing. We know that it's important that we keep going. But, you know, in the past, who would go to a spin class aged whatever? And yet, if they know that it's something where they're going to show their grandchildren that they're having a go, and there's fun and it's lighthearted and anyone or everyone is there, then it just makes it so much easier, not only to attend once or twice, but to then actually have some consistency, because that's also hard, because, you know, often people try things and it's a bit much and they try to make themselves like it, and they do feel good afterwards, but it just doesn't catch them.
Yeah, but that's also important because, you know, I appreciate that not everyone wants to ride a bike, which is why it was never really about the bike. I mean, for me, it's about the bike because that's my sort of chosen love of movement. But, you know, that's why I knew that it started there. But now, having taken it off the bike, it's so much more inclusive. And it's, you know, we have people that, you know, sort of the access point becomes something different as well, doesn't it? You know, they might come and they might walk or they might run and then they decide to get on a bike, or they might come to Power Yin and they'll do Tai Chi and relaxation and they'll get curious about what they can do. So they'll come and walk, but maybe they're, you know, somebody, if it's an elderly person, somebody, you know, further down the generation is doing something slightly different, but they're in the same space. So it's a hybrid space then of high energy on and off bikes. And it's just the same concept, bananas always, headphones always, you know, but it is just that different form of movement to say, actually, there are no shoulds. You know, there's the same as with, you know, metrics, you know, yes, let's move away from that. But there's no, you know, I'm not going to tell you you're going to achieve your health and wellness goals through riding a bike. You know, that's, you know, find your joy of movement, because as you say, then you will get consistent with it. Then it will become just something that's just, you can't be without, because it makes you feel so good.
I think that idea that you were saying as well, Wendy, coming back to community, that idea of consistency or sticking to something or habit formation or whatever research you look at around that kind of stuff, which involves, you know, multiple repetition basically in a really long time of doing something, actually what we know and we feel is that and research supports, is that actually if you feel connected socially to a community and that's your driver, you're far more likely to come back and to stick at something. And actually a lot of the people we have within our community would probably do most things if it involved writing on a banana.
Yeah.
So it's not actually the thing, that's the side order. What they come for is to be part of the bunch, to have that connection, to write on a banana, to have a playful, connected human space. And they get a side order of whatever it is, fitness, Tai Chi, what health and well-being, but that doesn't become their main focus. It's not, I've got to get off the sofa tonight because I really need to move. It's, I'm gonna, maybe it is, I've got to get off the sofa for tonight, but I'm gonna go and see my mate Luce and write on a banana with her, and it'll be nice because I haven't seen her since last week, or whatever that is.
But that's how you started, wasn't it? You started as a runner, would never have touched a bike, but then at that time, once we came out of lockdown, all I was doing was bikes. So if Bex, you want to come, then you're going to have to ride a bike. That's how it was at that time.
But it was about the bunch.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's about your community, like we say. And I think that connection actually is what perpetuates consistency and coming back and sticking to something.
So, and Becky, tell us a bit more about your side of things, because obviously it's a lovely sort of antidote in a way. There's the power high energy.
I've never heard it called an antidote before. That's brilliant. I'm the antidote to Elaine. If you've had too much of it. Yes, so Power Yin is what I deliver. So it's the same concept. It's headphones and bananas, but the movement is Tai Chi. It's an adapted form which has come from a rehabilitation background. So I am a physio that specialised in neuro rehab, so I could talk about brains all day long. That's what excites me. And we wanted to, so I was already involved a bit with the business, helping Elaine out, and we wanted to create even more inclusive space that allowed people to access movement and bananas who couldn't necessarily get on board with a high energy, so maybe wanted something more calm and peaceful, but also might have physical access requirements. So the movement is Tai Chi, but you can do that seated or standing. It's an adapted form, which means it's not highly choreographed, so it's really slow, repetitive movement. So it's actually really great for people with cognitive disability as well as physical disability, because it's very simple to follow. It comes with some really lovely imagery and cues from nature, so the movement becomes automatic because you're thinking about whatever, whether it's birds separating its wings or whatever that is. It conjures up images and thoughts that are peaceful and connecting and relaxing, but also help to guide that. And then it's relaxation and meditation. So that's what it is. But what it does is allow people to come, who maybe just want to de-stress or to find some peace and calm, but also potentially people who would not see themselves in that environment, who might not see themselves as somebody who goes to a session with other people.
But also really perfect. I don't know how much crossover you get, but there's so much importance in being able to connect with yourself in a much calmer, slower space. And I always talk about the power of slowing down and how sometimes speed, this is in movement terms, speed masks inefficiency in as much as you're sort of rushing through and you're not thinking about it. But in the same way, being nice and slow and controlled can really help you go inward sometimes in a much easier way because of that state of calm. And quite frankly, we all need that in our lives because a lot of people are running around absolutely fraught and not having, as we talked about before, that sort of space, that technological space in their life, the space away from all the content, all the notifications, all the to-dos, whatever. So it's a great, maybe antidote is the wrong word, but it's a great balance.
We would say that the yin to the yang is probably what it is.
No, but it's true. And you connect to your breath. You activate that parasympathetic nervous system. Your body feels safe. It allows you to come out of that fight or flight state. And actually within that space, that parasympathetic space, there's all sorts of healing that happens. You reduce your inflammation, which is one of the big drivers for mental ill health, but also for people who have got other health concerns. Actually, if you've got MS, an autoimmune condition, or you've got arthritis, if you can access those spaces which help to reduce inflammation, you potentially feel well in your body and in your mind. And that's the really sort of beautiful part of that side of things as well.
And for me, it is magic to see people maybe just using one side of their body in, you know, power chairs and wheelchairs, you know, who are you know, scribbling on bananas, and that's not easy for some of those people either, from a dexterity point of view. And you know, they're immersed in their own space, and they're not comparing themselves to anyone else who's there. They are just there for them.
But that's what gets me excited. That's what my whole career has been based around, is people who may have barriers to movement being able to come together and to move in a way that works for them. And so to be able to then connect those people, you know, it's great if you can have a private physiotherapy session at home that works on your specific rehab goals. Fine, we do still need that in life, and that's what I did for a long time. But I feel that there's a lot more purpose in bringing people together in a more financially accessible way. They get the same health benefits, the same physical and mental wellbeing benefits, but they get those extra add-ons of playfulness and connectivity and community, which I think are really actually vital to well-being in general.
And it's really leveled up not only the inclusion, but as Becky was mentioning, you know, we're so much more driven as well to work towards that mission we have for accessible mental health support for everyone. So the people that, you know, come into that space are typically more accessing more benefits, and, you know, aren't in a financial position to do that. So, you know, the way that we can do that is through Banana Currency, by getting, you know, more of the corporate work, more of the private work, that we can do more pay what you can. I mean, we're gifting and subsidizing spaces in the community every week, aren't we, to make sure that people can access it. And it's still not accessible enough. You know, for me, I always set this up, as I say, because I wasn't able to access private support. And, you know, I believe that we all have the right to have a safe space to move, to share, to feel, to shift. And that's what it's all about. So it's really brought power into its fullest expression, and so far from what I started with static bikes.
It's such a great concept. It really is. And you know, it's self-care on every level, and that's, you know, really important for people to take away, that it's a good thing to have fun with your movement, look after yourself, but in so doing, you're looking after others, because you're allowing them to share something that's troubling them, or something they feel great about. We don't often celebrate each other's wins. You know, there's so many ways that you can connect through this. And you're getting I love the fact it's kind of, and you get a side order of movement. Well,
totally. I've always said it's just a side order, you know, because actually, you know, when I started the business, it was power fitness events, and I stripped off the fitness events because it just wasn't serving. It was an experience. It was so much more than that, but the fitness was just never a thing. You know, I was amping up the spinning traditional stigma, and you know, this is about movement. It's movement, it's mindset, it's bananas, and it's connection.
That's such an adult mindset, isn't it? Like, my kids don't think I want to go to football at the weekend because I really want to strengthen my quads and get some great cardiovascular fitness. They go, I want to go and play with my mates. Like, that's the fundamental thing. And you know, my eldest daughter has a disability, you know, with health concerns and difficulties, and I want to know that when she grows up, that she's going to be as fit and as healthy as she can. But I'm not going to that's not going to happen. Eve's not going to go and think, I would need to work on my fitness. She would love to come and write on a banana, and to turn up to a space where she feels included and she sees herself in that space. So I think if we really want people to have that, we've got to create more of these spaces that encourage people to go, not as the driver or as movement, but they encourage people to go because it's fun and it's connecting and it's community.
And I much prefer your use of the word experience as well, because you know, I never use the word fitness in anything I do. It's the furthest thing that from the way I want to message, not because I don't think it's an important aspect, but because I think it is a knock-on effect of you wanting to move, enjoying movement, seeing the benefit you get holistically in general in your entire life, be it you know, connecting with people, or just having that headspace of a walk on your own. But fitness comes from that. I talk about the movement ripple effect, because when you move a bit more, you want to move a bit more if you find the movement that you like, or if you find the variety. And again, that's why I like the word experience, because all of these ways of moving need to be different experiences. And I think it's that rich tapestry, that variety, which is what makes Power so great, that there are so many different elements now. And I have a feeling that it'll grow to many more, where it's all the rich tapestry and all the experiences of movement you can get that actually make you more physically capable and mentally capable, because you are able to move in different ways, and you're challenging your brain in different ways, you're challenging your body in different ways. We can get stuck in real silos, and I think the whole sports side of things with children particularly is we're so quickly forcing kids often into these silos of, you know, you're good at X, you know, football, rugby, whatever the thing is, so you're a football player. Well, yeah, but also what about just being a player? What about being also a runner and a walker and a jumper and a, you know, we need to move in a multiple ways, and that's what really enriches our bodies and minds.
And I think experience also brings in that whole idea of feeling. And it, you know, an event is almost, you know, it's a feeling, but it's also, as you described there, the consistency of something. You know, an experience lasts. An event for me is a one-off. It's all language, you know, and it's all subtlety of language, and everyone's gonna have an opinion on that, you know. Exactly. But, you know, and also, you know, again, bringing it back to the banana as I always do, but it is that whole idea of, if it's in your fruit bowl, you can reconnect to that feeling of, oh, I felt really strong, and I felt really vulnerable, or I felt really safe, or last night when I was doing that, and I'm going to have my banana and I'm going to think about that today. So you're reconnecting with something, and as you say, again, you're then thinking, I'm going to do that again because it felt good, you know. So it's something that lasts. That's, I think, really important.
So important. Well, Chief Banana Officer, what, Elaine, what do you call yourself? What's your title?
That's me. And then
sorry,
Becky,
what's your title? What's your title?
The antidote is Banana Master of Yin.
That sounds very grand, doesn't it?
Oh, I love it. No, it's great. I love it. I need to think of it. I want a new title. Yeah, I want a new title. Oh, I can't.
It's really interesting because, like, when you say it grows, and absolutely, you know, I have a big vision for this. But it's, you know, people come to me and say, I do circuits or I do Pilates, and I think, no. If you'd come to me and said, I do bananas and I love moving in a way that's described as Pilates, and I say, oh, okay, let's give it a go. You know, like, it's what comes first. And, you know, for me, it's always going to be bananas first, which is why it's become Power as Bananas. So. And there's just the two of us, but who knows?
And in lots of my stuff, I talk about sort of the ways of you do daily tasks and everything. And they all sound so boring. And I'm trying to mix it up and make it more creative and fun. I think I might start adding bananas into that.
Add bananas.
Ways to peel and eat your banana on the floor, standing up.
You know, something you'd love, actually, Wendy, is I did, you know, the tap challenge, when you're sort of in a plank and you do the tap. Eating a piece of banana every time.
There's all kinds of content there, isn't there?
I can't imagine the mess that might be created on the floor below.
That's part of the fun. That's part of it.
Oh, wow. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Wendy.
Just to finish, if you had any messages to people about your perhaps people who've been put off by the whole metrics thing, and I've sort of had a bit of a spark in this conversation, thinking about how important it is to move from within, as it were. Have you got any little messages, any little gems of wisdom, any of your wonderful affirmation power?
I mean, there'd be a few. I think there's so much power in noticing. And I think when you do notice yourself, potentially, you know, if you're in that metric space at the moment and you are so connected to that, and you find yourself giving your power away to that, like we talked about earlier, is to notice it, but not to judge it, and just to practice an alternative, to get curious about an alternative, and to ask for help. You know, I've been there and I've experienced that, and surround yourself, get curious about spaces where you can express yourself, and I don't even like the word drive. I prefer that idea of being called. You know, again, it's that sort of motion of it all, isn't it? But, you know, it's not driven by a metric space. It's driven by something bigger and more powerful, which I think is play and everything that we've talked about, really. But it's that, noticing, not judging, being proud of the fact that you've noticed and seeking something different.
And we haven't really we haven't touched on it yet, but a big part of what we do is connecting to nature. So getting out, we haven't really spoken about the fact that most of what we do is out and about, outside, in the woods, on the beach, connecting to nature. And so for me, for all of us, and Power and Bananas, but personally, if I want to have that first step towards feeling either disconnected from tech or more connected to myself, if I can get myself into nature somehow, our bodies know what to do, our brains have a natural state, and achieving that or identifying that or connecting to that is so much easier done when you can connect to nature in whatever way that is. So that would be my
feeling the breeze, anything. That's something really simple, as you can get outside and just feel the breeze on your skin. Just notice something like that, and then you find that you're actually so much more in your body than you are in your head. So whatever you can, just keep moving towards feeling, not overthinking it so that you're under feeling it. It's just keep coming back to it.
Brilliant advice, and I could not agree more about the outside as well. And we do talk about it a lot on this podcast because it's so vital, and it is, again, it's this problem of the modern world that we are, in these boxes, and we're in a colder climate. It's, it's harder, particularly as winter comes in and so on. But the difference that it can make within seconds, I literally feel different the minute I open my front door. I can actually just stand outside my front door, and the thoughts I was having inside the front door melt away or just become that bit less. And sort of tuning in, as you say, Elaine, about that awareness that happens creates that nice cycle where you loop back and think, I need to get outdoors because I will just feel better. Even if you're just walking to the end of the road and back, it doesn't matter.
You feel that air in your lungs, you feel your shoulders drop a bit. It just shifts, doesn't it? It changes that state.
Well, I'm desperate to come and have a banana experience now. And my wonderful friend that connected us, Cecilia, she obviously lives near you. And so I think I've got a great excuse to come down and visit now.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to Cecilia as well. She's a great influence in our life as well. So
absolutely.
Fabulous that we connected, Wendy. Thank you.
Yes, and wonderful to meet you guys and chat, and thank you so much for your time.
That's a pleasure. Thanks, Wendy.
I hope you've enjoyed listening, and if you have, you can help by doing 3 things. First, press the follow button to tell podcast platforms you want to listen again. Second, please give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review about why you liked it. And third, I'd love you to share it with friends and family or on your socials, for which I'm truly thankful. Finally, if this podcast is making you want to start reclaiming your own movement, join me in the Reclaim Movement membership for classes, both live and by replay, and countless videos of mini movement breaks to add into your daily life, covering practical and fun, important natural movements. Visit reclaimmovement.co.uk/membership to get started with your 7-day free trial. See you for the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.